Wow. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Now back to the lecture at hand. Perfection is perfected, so I'm gonna let them understand. Yeah, so we back in the book, The Unknown Arabs. Clear, definitive proof of the dark complexion of the original Arabs and the Arab origin of the so-called African Americans. Dodge the hijack. That's the title of the book, so I got to read that, all right? So by Tariq Berry, he did great research on these into Africa nations, right? Into Africa, foreigners from other parts of the world who set up shop and became known as so-called Africans, reclassified, or the history rewritten by the victors. So the research, don't take things personal. Everybody can be corrected. You can correct me, but at least do it with real sources. But what's important, guys, is the shocking real truth that a lot of these ruling ethnic groups of Africa are actually coming from other parts of the world. They're not indigenous from that land. They're not autochthonous to that land. They might be autochthonous to somewhere else, and that's okay. Nobody's hating on Africa, so don't take it personal in that way. We're just trying to reveal the details and the specifics and the truth so we can have a better understanding of everyone in history. Because when we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. And that's why we keep repeating all the bad things. Okay, so we are going to continue in the investigation. Today, we're going to be looking at what he's saying about the Mandingo people, which I was reading over. I've been doing a little research, and yeah, it makes sense. Remember that there's 3 people that are the oldest people in Africa, right? Anybody else came later, right? Pay attention. So we're talking about the Khoisan, the Khoikhoi, the Bush or Hottentots, they call them all kinds of things. And they were all over North Africa and West Africa before they had to go all the way south. They got pushed literally. And then you got the Pygmies, and then you got the Berbers. Remember, the Berbers and Arabs, they did eventually come together, but they did start out as different people. So those are the 3 nations or peoples that were the oldest in Africa, and everybody else came from somewhere else, and that's okay. And even these 3 nations might have come from somewhere else. So what are you saying, Kurimeo? Are you saying Africa was empty? Or wasn't supposedly the whole world at one point empty, and then life began with a couple and supposedly spread from there, right? They couldn't be everywhere, right? We're just saying the true old world is the Americas, or connected to the landmass of the Americas. Understand? So let's get started in the book, and we're going to see what he has to say about the Mandingo. I'm also going to show you that what he's saying is not just like, oh, this is my opinion. And those parts, I was able to verify the sources. And it's all there. I'm going to show you. So we're about page 105 of this book. And he says here, the Mandingo. The Mandingo is a very large Arab tribe with many branches found in many parts of the area called Africa, south of the Sahara. The Mandingo tribe, also called the Mande or the Wangara, Gara, Wangara, includes such branches as the Soninke, Sarakoli. So these are Mandingo people, right? Pay attention. The Susu, the Keita, the Kaba, the Sakho, the Saghanogo, the Fina, the Jakanke, the Bambara, the Jaula, the Ola, the Shongai, the Turut, and the Dailonki. Okay? So all these clans, all these branches are all Mandingo, so-called Mandingo, very large Arab tribe. Ibrahim Tarkan, professor of history of the Middle Ages at Cairo University in Khartoum says, listen what he's saying, right? Who is he again? Professor of history in Cairo University. He says all tribes of Mandingo claim an Eastern origin. All right. El Ghanimi also mentions the fact that all tribes of Mandingo say that they are from the Middle East. All right. The traditions, their own histories, their own royal courts, their own elders say this. So again, he's saying, Ibrahim Tarkan, we got two sources right here, right? Now, just for example, so you guys can see, this guy's not just making things up. When they're talking about all the tribes of the Mandingo claim an Eastern origin, this professor really did say that. The source, it says 164, which is this one, Ibrahim Ali Tarkan, Dalat Mali El Islamiyya, all right? And I did find that source. I'm going to show you right now. So here's the source right here. Yeah, this is in Arabic. Yeah, I don't read Arabic, right? But what I do have is Google Translate. So I was like, is this it? Supposedly this was it, right? I didn't know. I can't read that. So I go to Google Translate. I put Arabic, right? And I put that. It says Islamic State of Mali, Ibrahim Ali Tarkam. All right, that's the one. This is the one. This is the one. Okay, so I don't read Arabic, so I had to like figure out where exactly page 35 is, because that's where he said supposedly it was. I can't even tell Arabic numerals, right? But I did see Mandingo here. So what I did is I started copy pasting all this, until I see if I could find what he was talking about. Until I did. So then I came to, I think it was in this page. Let's see. It's on this page actually. So I grabbed all this and just, copy. As you guys can see, copy, bring it over to Google Translate. Let's erase this, copy, and then paste it, translating, right? And he goes on to say, as you guys can see, it is noted that these branches are similar in dialect, social systems, and to some extent in cultural level. However, they differ from one another as a result of the differences in their places of residence, all right, and so on and so on. Okay, and then right here it says all branches, right here, guys, all branches of the Mandingo tribes claim that they originally came from the east, although Al-Sadi says of the people of Mali, they are originally black. You guys see? What is telling you, this guy, a professor of history from the Cairo University, he's letting you know that all these Mandingo people told them, or they claim, because he researched their history, that they were coming from the east, not Africa, made in the Middle East or Asia, right? Asia. And they originally black. They were black. Doesn't mean because they were coming from the east that they look different, that they weren't so-called black or Negroid. They are. He's saying they were. As for the word Mali or Mal, it is what these countries are known by in books. Arabic and foreign alike, it is the name used by the Fulani tribes of the land of the Mandingo or Malinke. It is a corruption of the word Mande, which means to silence among the Fulani, as follows. All right, so it keeps going. A lot of drop. We can, get into this book if you guys ever want to one day, So you see all the draw we can get from verifying different sources. Where we're reading, we run into other sources. All right, like this. I just wanted you guys to see that That's verified. So this guy, you can trust that this guy is actually using sources, all right? And it's not just any source. Again, it's a professor of history of the Middle Ages at Cairo, right? And also El Ghanimi, he says that the Mandingo say that they are from the Middle East. Now continues, says the Mandingo tribe is the result of a mixture of Gara. Who's the Gara? The Sagawa, Hawa, Sagawa, and other Arab tribes. And other Arab tribes. E.W. Boville says that the Gara became the ancestors of some of the Sudanese peoples, such as the Mandingo tribes of Soninke and Wangara. Okay? Now look, Wangara, right? Gara. Who are the Gara? The Gara or Garamantes. The Garamantes. Have you ever heard of these people, guys? I know a lot of you guys know about North African history, and you probably have, you know, but most people don't. This is like nations people that are forgotten about in history, but they had a lot of influence in the area of North Africa, right? And who are they? The Gara or Garamantes, also known as Sioux. Sioux, huh? That sounds like Sioux Indian, right? Sioux. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying. But Garamantes, that's what they're known, occupied the area of Libya called Fez on from the very early period. In fact, they were the original inhabitants of the area. Concerning the Gara or Garamantes, Boville says they are believed to have belonged to an ancient Kushite stock, which long before the Christian era had been driven from the southern Arabia. From where? From southern Arabia. Another professor, another scholar telling you that these Garamantes, what? They had been coming from southern Arabia across the Straits of Bab el Mandeb into Africa, not out of Africa, into Africa. These Garamantes coming from an Arab place, southern Arab, possibly even Yemen again. Remember the pure Arabs, Garamantes? We seem to see indeed quite clearly that the Saharan races, whom the Roman called Gaetules, the Garamantes, the Gara of Fezzan, the modern Tubu or Teda, and the Nobatai of the Nile Valley. Listen, all these people belong to the more ancient or Kushite stocks, and they're supposed Persian origin, okay? Persian origin. Persian origin, as stated even in Roman times, as well as by the present day Fulbe or Fulani, right? The Fulani brother was telling us, right? These guys letting you know that some of the Fulani know this stuff to account for their origin. Really refers not to the Persians of history, but to their predecessors, the Elamites. What happened to the Elamites and other peoples who inhabited southern Asia? So we're not talking about like modern day Persians, right? We're talking about the original Persians who were the Elamites. Now we got a Shem, a line of Shem. So Elam was a son of Shem. Elamites are descendants of Elam. Elamites are what became known as so-called Persians. Elamites, that's who they talking about, Southern Asia. So these people, these Garamantes, are like a mixture of these Kushite, what it seems like Kushite Hamitic people with Elamites, Semitic Elamites, right? Just remember the Shona people. The Shona people said they were coming from ancient Persia too. Possibly related, So this is very deep here, okay? Again, all these people, he says, inhabited Southern Asia, not Africa. So again, going back, right? He told us that this Professor E.W. Boville saying that concerning the Gara, right? Because the Mandingo are supposed to be descendants of Gara, mixing with Arabs. And that's the Mandingo. So the Gara, as he was saying, They are believed to have belonged to an ancient Kushite stock, which long before the Christian era had been driven from southern Arabia across the straits of Bab el Mandeb into Africa, right? So they're not indigenous to that area too. So they're quoting 166 here and 167, and that is 166 E.W. Bovell, Caravans of the Old Sahara, right? And here's the source, Caravans of the Old Sahara, an introduction to the history of the Western Sudan by E.W. Bovell. In his book right here, chapter 3, it says Races of Men. I just want to read this part right here. It's very interesting. It says, before the Arab invasions, right, of the 7th and 11th centuries. See how those 2 centuries kind of always have the same kind of waves coming in, just like the Moors going into Spain? What if those 2 different time periods is just one? Remember, we got mixed up chronologies and we got duplicates and phantoms. So it might just be in the 11th century, is what I'm trying to say. So Arab invasions coming in the Middle Ages, right? Coming into the interior of northern Africa, was peopled by 2 distinct types of man. Listen to this, Negroid and non-Negroid. Do they mean so-called white people? No, listen to what they say. They said the latter, or the non-Negroid, who were northern Hamites. He's saying non-Negroids are Hamites, right? Remember what the Saunderville Bible told us, okay? Again, in the 1964 Saunderville Bible Dictionary, when you go to see the word Ham, says the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. It's not the same, you see? Not the Negroes. But wait a minute, I thought Hamites were all the black. I thought all so-called Negroes or all so-called black folks are Hamites. As you guys can see, that's not true. The Hamites include the dark races, not the Negroes. Literally saying the same thing this other author was just saying to us, right? They are the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, right? Not the Negroes. Not the same. All skinfolk and kinfolk. So we go back to the book we was just reading, right? And he said that there was 2 types of people, Negroid and non-Negroid. The non-Negroes he's calling the northern Hamites. As the Saunderville definition says, Hamites are not the Negroes either. They're just the dark races. Very, very dark. But they're not Negroes, right? And they're Africans, right? Today. But they weren't originally from there. You guys see? They were called Libyans by the Romans. We just got, they are the dark races, but not the Negroes. So these are not Negro people. Even this guy is saying non-Negro, even though they're so-called black, right? So they were called Libyans by the Romans and Berbers by the Arabs. So they know Berbers, right? The last name being derived from the Latin barbari. The Negroid peoples, infused with varying degrees of Hamitic blood, inhabited the Sahara, but they were particularly associated with the more southerly regions, to which the Arabs later gave the name of Beled es Sudan, or the land of the blacks. Included among the Libyans or Berbers were the Saharan races, whom the Romans called Gaetuli in the northwest. That's who we were just reading about, right? The Garamantes, there we go, and Fezzan. So these are all related, right? The Garamantes, remember, Mandingo's coming from the Garamantes. Why are we reading this right now? So you can understand the whole details, the whole context, the whole history, the whole makeup. We're going to get to the rest of the makeup for the Mandingos. This is part of it right here. The Garamantes says they are believed to have belonged to an ancient Kushite stock, which long before the Christian era had been driven from southern Arabia. All right, where were they coming from? The Garamantes, even the Garamantes. So the Mandingo coming from Garamantes. So even though this is a Kushite stock, they were also coming from southern Yemen. Southern Arabia. Might be Yemen too, or other parts of there. Across the straits of Bab el Mandeb into Africa. We just literally quoted. We got the source, right, that he just quoted from the other book. So now we can verify that this author that we're reading in the other book, The Unknown Arabs, he knows what he's talking about. He's actually quoting real sources, guys. I just want you guys to see that. But since we are here, let's keep reading. It says they were known as the Gara. So the Garamantes or Gara, right? In Fezzan, there survive ruins of Garama, one of their cities, from which it is apparent that they were not wholly barbarous. The swift-footed Ethiopians of Herodotus, right? This is who you calling. That's your Gara. This is who he was talking about. Ethiopians, dark complexion, the dark race people, right? Who are represented today by the Tebu or Teda or Tibesti, belong to the same stock. These are all related people. The Garamantes, the Tebu, the Teda, and the Gaituli, Hamitic Kushite stocks that came from Arabia. These Gada tribes, who were later known to the Arabs as Su or So, fused with the Negroes. What Negroes? So again, these are not the Negroes, right? And became the ancestors of some of the Sudanese peoples. Listen, what happened? So these Gada tribes, they fused with who? With the Negroes? So who's the Negroes? We're gonna get the whole makeup. Who you call Negro now? And became the ancestors, right? So the Gada mixing with other type of people, Kushite stock coming from Arabia, ended up in North Africa, became a big empire in the Sahara Desert, the Garamantes. In case you guys didn't know, these people eventually mixed with other people. They call them Negroes, or might be the Arab stock of Joktan's people. But you understand, right? So these people mixing with other people, they became the ancestors of some of the Sudanese people, such as the Mandingo tribes. All right, the Mandingo tribes. There you go. We're talking about Mandingo, right? You thought Mandingo was indigenous people to Africa? Mandingo tribes of Soninke and Wangara. There you go, in the west. So they are the Mandingo tribes of Soninke and Wangara in the west, and the Garawan or Guram in the east. In the east. All these people who are supposed to be Mandingo actually are coming from Garamantes and other mixes. We're going to talk about the other mixes, okay? Not less important than the Gara were the Libyan nomads of the desert, whom we today call the Tuareg, all right? They were known to the Arab writers as Mulet Temin. They are a tall, slender, long-faced, fair-skinned, fair-skinned, right? Oh, yeah, but they are very dark, like they call them fair compared to the other people who are much darker. People whose children often have fair wavy hair, which afterwards turns black. Their most striking characteristic is the curious custom of the man covering the face with litam. Okay, so just wanted to go ahead and verify that so you guys can see, okay? It's all here. Garamantes, they became the ancestors of who? Mandingo, all right? We'll see what else. Here's an image, says portion from the slitting mosaic found in the villa of Darbuk, Amera, depicting the execution of Garamantian prisoners. So yeah, all dark complexion people, right? We ain't talking about pale skinned people. So the earliest known written record of the document, the Garamantes, dates to the 5th century BC. Herodotus includes the Garamantes in his description of the ancient Libyan tribes, describing them as a very great nation who herded cattle and farmed dates. Okay, according to Herodotus, the Garamantes used 4-horse chariots to hunt troglodytes, Ethiopians. Listen, this is what I was reading in the other book. Basically, they used to enslave the Khoisan people, the Khoisan people, basically. These are your troglodyte Ethiopians, that's what Herodotus was calling. When you go into it, it literally tells you who it was, who they were talking to. All right. Who were they talking about? As the Khoisan bush people when they were up in those areas before they went to South Africa, right? So yeah, these people were enslaving others and they were getting enslaved, and then all these wars, So it's very complex, the history, right? We're gonna go back to the book. I'm sorry I went off. Just wanted you guys to understand who the Garamantes were. So again, we're back in the book by Tariq Berry, and he was letting us know, quoting all the authors here, but the Garamantes being from Arabia, all right. They're all Kushite stocks, and their supposed Persian origin, as stated even in Roman times, as well as by the present-day Fulbe or Fulani to account for their origin, really refers not to the Persians of history, but to their predecessors, the Elamites, and other peoples who inhabited southern Asia. says Palmer translates an Arabic document from Sokoto, Nigeria, in which the origin of the Sarankuli, this is a Mandingo people, right? And he's translating it, right? An Arabic document he translated from Sokoto, Nigeria, which the origin of the Sarankuli or Mandingo is explained as being from Persians, from the neighborhood of the two rivers, the Nile and the Euphrates, Mesopotamia. Wow. So he was talking about the Mandingo people. So you see, the Mandingo people, they have Elamite, Semitic stock, and most likely they have the Joktan, which is also, I guess, Semitic, right? But then Joktan becomes the pure Arabs after him. So now they got Arab, Semitic, Hamitic, right? You got the Mandingo, right? So that document was saying they came from Persians or Elamites. Remember, they not mean modern day Persians, from the neighborhood of the two rivers of the Nile and the Euphrates, from Mesopotamia area, basically from Iraq, Iran, the Middle East, that area is what they're saying. Some of their ancestors of the Mandingo came from. Palmer says it will be understood, however, that the origin attributed to the Sarakoli and other Saharan tribes in Persia does not refer to the historical kingdom of Persia, listen, but to the peoples of Mesopotamia and Syria, such as the Phoenicians and the Elamites, who according to tradition spread at a very early epoch from Asia to Africa, from Asia into Africa, and are called Cushites. So he's adding Phoenicians. So that's a little hijack there. That's their misunderstanding. Phoenicians, seafarers. It's not just one people. Okay? But the Elamites, very important. So we know Elam is not a Cushite. So that's also a mistake right there, if that's what that author says in the book he's quoting. Elamites come from Elam. That's Shem. It's son of Shem. For a reminder of who the Elamites were, turn back to pages 10 and 11. For an original picture of them, turn to the illustrations at the back of this book. Palmer also said there is therefore no reason to doubt the tradition that a period which may be placed between 5000 or 2000 BC between those Asiatic nomad or Asiatic nomad races called Cushites were driven first to the south of Arabia and then across the straits of Bab el-Mandeb into Africa. He also says a definite Elamite migration from the Persian Gulf to the Horn of Africa, right to the south, just like the Shona people, Zimbabwe, right? They said, and they're also in South Africa too. They said they came from Persia. That matches that video. Into the Horn of Africa, huh? It's believed by scholars to have taken place about 2000 BC or before. So that's really far back. There was different waves of migrations. Remember, chronology is a little messed up with their they don't have no real archaeology for that. The Khoisan people, they're way longer. Dr. Joseph Williams, author of Hebrewisms in West Africa, says the full moon dances and the matrimonial ceremonies found today in the Soso Mandingo tribes are undoubtedly traceable to the Astarte code. Astartia, Assyrian. So remember, now I get what he's saying. So he's trying to say, the people he's quoting, right, this author, because he's quoting them, right? He's saying, they saying. So Phoenicians, again, they mean Assyrians. And Elamites, so-called Persians. Right? And so all these people come together like Babylonians, right? Babylon and Empire. So he's talking about Assyrians, possibly Babylonians, Elamite, Persians. Soso is the same as Su, which is another name for the Garamantes. Look at this, Soso, right? Soso. So it's not surprising to find a Mandingo tribe called Soso, right? Soso is the same as Su, which is another name for the Garamantes. The Susu branch of Mandingo is named after their Gara ancestors. So that branch of the Mandingo, that's why there's different clans, because some clans of the Mandingo may be more Persian, maybe more Semitic, maybe more Elamitic, maybe more Arab. The Susu branch are probably a lot more Gara, right? So that's why they have different branches, but they all kind of mix with the same people. The Susu branch of Mandingo, again, is named after their Gara ancestors who were also known by the name Su. Susu is simply a reduplication form of Su. These Gara or Garamantes or Su later mixed with the Sagawa. So these Garamantes, right? What happened? They mixed, so the Kushite mixed with the Sagawa. Who's the Sagawa? Who are from the Juhayna, a branch of the Himyarite Arabs from the Yemen, and became the Mandingo. Wow. You guys see the makeup? Do you understand? So remember that when we talk about Himyarite, that's Yarub's descendants. Yarub is the son of Yoktan or Katan. Remember, guys, from the Yoruba video? So they got a little bit of the Yoruba makeup, the Himyarite part. That relates them to the Yoruba a little bit, anciently. But remember, the Mandingo are a mixer of a lot of other nations, more than the Yoruba. Okay, so very interesting. So the Sagawa, a whole other people now. We got Garamantes mixing with Sagawa, possibly mixing with Elamites, right? And some other Semitic people here and there. And now that's what you get, all that makeup with the pure Arabs, the Himyarites, right? The pure Arabs. You get the Mandingo. You get the Mandingo people, guys. You guys understand? So continuing, it says here that Sagawa are a branch of the Himyarite Arabs from Yemen called Sanghaya, the Mulet Timin. See photo on following page. So the Sanghaya is another empire there in the Sahara, but they are coming from the pure Arabs too. They're not from Africa. The Sanghaya Muletimen are a large group of nomadic people who inhabit or originally inhabited the Sahara Desert. The word Muletimen means those who cover their mouths, and these people were called the Muletimen because of the fact that they cover their mouths with their turbans. They are found in regions all across the area called Africa, from the western part of modern-day Sudan to the western part of the area called Africa, north and south of the Sahara. The Sanghaya Muleth Timen are divided into many branches. These branches are Lemta, Auriga, Jedala, Lemtuna, Utsila, Sansiga, Senega, remember, whence comes the word Senegal, and remember they weren't originally from that area either, the Ketama, the Targa, Mesufa, the Sagawa, and Senata. So the Garamantes mixed with one of these branches of the Sanghaya, right, of the pure Arabs, the Sagawa, who are Himyarites from Yemen, Himyarite Arabs from Yemen. They didn't mix with the others, but they mixed with the Sagawa, and you get Mandingo. So what happens when you mix with other, if the Garamantes mix with any other clan, they probably create a whole other nation, right? If they mix, let's say, Garamantes with the Jedala instead of the Sagawa, then you get a whole other people, right? That, this is what I'm just saying. Picture that. So the Garamantes mixing with the Sagawa, as we just read, then you get became the Mandingo, right? And the Sanghaya Muletimen are also called the Tuareg, and most people know them by this name. All right. Bovel says that Muletimen are believed by many to have arrived in Africa as part of the Himyarite invasion from southern Arabia. Invasion, not refuge, not refugees seeking asylum, invasion from southern Arabia. So the Yoruba and all these people, they invaded from southern Arabia, which followed approximately the same route as the much earlier migration of the Gara peoples. It followed the same route that the Gara had taken, but the Gara was there a little longer. You see, they coming from the same area, so these Himyarites probably had forced these Gara Kushite people out of Arabia. Then they settled there, right? Joktan's people settled there. And then later on, they got ran out by Muhammad and the so-called Muslims. And all these people in these different periods of time, in these different waves, were populating Africa, guys. And they became known as so-called Africans, but they weren't. Understand? The author of Tariq el-Sudan, Abdel Rahman el-Sadi, who was from the Muletimen, quotes Ibn el-Khatib as saying, these Lamtum are related to the Lamtuna, and they are from the children of Lamt. Lamt They are from the children of Lumpt. Lumpt, Jedal, Lempt, and Mashtuf are descended from Sanhaya. Lempt is the forefather of Lemta, and Mashhuf is the forefather of the Masufa. Right, these are African peoples today, guys. They are nomadic, transitory people who travel about in the Sahara. The Sanhaya are descended from Himyar. There is no genealogical relation between them and the Berbers except through marriage. All right, so they were different than the Berbers. Okay, they left the Yemen and moved to the Sahara. That's when they started kind of mixing with the Berbers, and that's where you kind of get different nations from there. All right, so you guys understand. I know it's very complicated and it seems confusing, but the more and more you study this, maybe even rewatch the videos, watch the old ones, all different ones, you start understanding the whole details, who's who is mixed with what, who's coming out of what, right? As you guys can see though, it's all into Africa, not out of. We've been debunking that whole out of Africa theory. Theories are not facts. That's why it's called a theory. So they left Yemen and moved to the Sahara, just like the Yoruba. All right, guys. So real quick, just to corroborate, I just want to show you guys that this is real history. We're going to read from the Tariq al-Sudan. What is this? The Tariq al-Sudan, also known as Tariq es-Sudan, History of the Sudan, is a West African chronicle written in Arabic in around 1655 by the chronicler of Timbuktu, okay? Al-Sadi. He wrote that. It provides the single most important primary source, the most important primary source for the history of the Songhai Empire, okay? So I don't care what a Pan-African with personal biases and opinions says about what we're doing, the research we're doing about these nations coming from somewhere else, because we're reading their most important primary source for their history, specifically of the Songhai Empire, what we're talking about in the other book right now, right? And related, the tribes and people who are related to this empire. It and the Tariq al-Fatash, so this other one, another 17th century chronicle, given a history of Songhai, are together known as the Timbuktu Chronicles. Okay? So the author Abderrahmane al-Sadi was born 20th of May, 1594. Okay? The early sections of the chronicle are devoted to brief histories of earlier Songhai dynasties of the Mali Empire and the Tuareg, and to biographies of the scholars and holy men of both Timbuktu and the Djenné. Okay? The main part of the chronicle covers the history of the Songhai from the middle of the 15th century till the Moroccan invasion in 1591. All right, so this is what we're about to get into right now. I actually found a copy here in French. There's a translation from the Arabic to the French. There's probably Arabic versions that I can't read it, so I don't know if I'm even looking at the right source. But I was able to find a French version of this book. Okay, again, the Tariq es-Sudan. Let me just go to the cover. So the Tariq es-Sudan, or the history of Sudan. Arab documents, history of the Sudan, okay? Translated from the Arabic. So I go about page 6 of this book, right? Go to the second paragraph and I literally copy paste like from page 6, as you guys can see, all the way to page 7. All this I grabbed, okay? Page 8. All this I grabbed up to here, and we go to Google Translate, and this is the whole thing right here. So you guys can slow it down and verify if you like. You guys can see I'm not making anything up. It says here, as for the name of the first of these princes, Sa al-Yaman, it originated from the phrase Dajaman el-Yemen. He came from Yemen. Remember, we already got that. That literally means, that last name that these people carry literally means he came from Yemen. All right, South Arabia. The princes of Sa al-Yaman, okay? It is said, in fact, that this character, accompanied by his brother, had left Yemen to travel the world, and that fate had led the two travelers to the city of Koikia, a very ancient city built on the banks of the river in the territory of Songhai. The city already existed in the time of Pharaoh, and it was from here, it is said, that he summoned a troop of magicians he employed in the controversy he had with Moses. Whoa, may salvation be upon him. Wow. The two brothers arrived at Kokiya. So listen, is that when Moses went up against the magician of Pharaoh? You guys see that? So you see who is this? Now we know who is the priest that Pharaoh had. You guys hear that? It's a Yemen guy. The two brothers arrived at Kokiya in the most pitiful state. They had, so to speak, lost all human form. So dirty and exhausted were they, and their nakedness was hidden only by scraps of animal skins thrown over their bodies. When they were asked where they came from, the elder replied, "He comes from Yemen. Deja men el Yemen." From then on, the word was no longer used except Sid al-Yaman, altering the pronunciation of the phrase that had been spoken because the people of the country had difficulty reproducing its sounds. So heavy had their barbaric dialect made their language. Wow. Says Al or Sa al-Yaman remained in Koikia. He noticed that the people among whom he lived were pagans and worshipped only idols. The demon manifested itself to them in the form of a fish, with which a ring in its nose appeared above the waters of the river at certain specific times. At that moment, all the people would gather in crowds near the animal to worship it. It would formulate its orders and prohibitions. Then they would disperse. All did what they had commanded to do and abstained from what they had been forbidden. Having witnessed this ceremony and having realized that these people were clearly on the wrong path, Sa al-Yaman conceived the plan to kill the fish and carried out his intention. One day, when the animal appeared, he threw a harpoon at it and killed it with the help of God. Immediately, the people swore an oath of obedience to Sa al-Yaman and made him their king. It is claimed that this prince was a Muslim, and the reason for this is given in the act just reported. It has also been said that his successors abjured their faith, but we do not know who was first among them to set an example of apostasy. We also do not know when Sa al-Yaman left Yemen, when he arrived in Kokiya, and what his real name was, all right? What is his real name? That just means he came from Yemen. What is his real name? Who are we talking about? This guy who went up against Moses? Whoa. And he lost, right? Remember Moses won, right? If that's what they're talking about. That would be pretty crazy. We're going to do an investigation on that for sure. But yeah, so from Yemen going into Africa, whatever his real name was, he continued to be called by the phrase indicated above, which served as his proper name, and the first word of his phrase became the title, a title for the princes who reigned after him, okay? That's literally their whole title of these princes in this part of Africa literally means he came from Yemen. We came from Yemen, all right, guys? Going back to the book, right? The primary source, the most important primary source of the Songhai dynasty, right? We're going to go on to, let me see, page 43, right? And we grab all this right here, all the way probably to the next page a little bit, okay? And then this is this right here, as you guys can see. All right. It says they are Muslims, followed the Sunnah, and wage holy war against the Negroes. But these Muslims, remember, they are also so-called black. So who's the so-called Negroes? The Sanhaja, remember? The Sanhaja, we just read about it in the other book on non-Arabs, trace their origins back to Himyar. All right, Himyar. Remember, Himyar is the son of Yarub, who is the son of Joktan or Katan. So they all descend from the Himyar, right? The origins are with the Himyar, right? As you guys can see, the Himyarite kingdom, South Arabia, right? South Arabia. The history of Yemen, right? Yemen. Himyar was a polity in the southern highlands of Yemen. So going back to the translation, it says here, they are Muslims, follow the Sunnah and wage holy war. The Sanhaja, listen, the Sanhaja trace their origins back to Himyar. They are only related to the Berbers through their women. They came from Yemen and went to the Sahara, their present homeland, in the Maghreb. Okay? All right, you guys see that? So, real quick, I want you guys to remember who the Himyarites descend from. They descend from Yarub. Remember Yarub, the progenitor of the Yoruba? Yes, the same relation when it comes to their Himyar part. We're talking about the Mandingo. Their Himyarite blood is the same as the Himyarite blood that the Yoruba have. It says here, approaches to Arabic linguistics, presented to Keith Verstig on the occasion of his 60th birthday, edited by Everhard Ditters and Harald Motzki. So we go to a part of this book. This is about page 201. It says here, part 4, Yarub's Arabic, right? The further source and trace in the first Arabic speaker was tribal history. Okay, so, it has a lot of drop. We're going to get to a specific part, we're doing a little refresh. Check out my Yoruba video if you haven't. Now, it says here, look, the majority of historians among them, the author of Tawarikh al-Uman al-Isfahani, and the author of Al-Marif ibn Qutayba, tell us that Yarub, born from Qatan, was the first to speak in clear Arabic. Remember, Qatan is Joktan, guys. So Yarub is a son of Joktan. Joktan is a son of Eber. So he was the first to speak clear in Arabic. What does that mean? The first to bear the crown in Yaman. Yaman, the first who was greeted by his sons with the formula, may you avoid the curse of your day, be happy. Ibn Hisham, the author of the Book of Crowns, this is a very historic book, right? Which he wrote on the kings of Himyar, reports, it was Yarub who went with the Arabs to Yaman and settled there. Therefore, Yaman was called after him, because Yarub's name was Yaman. Okay, so Yarub's other name is Yaman. That's where they get in Yemen. It is the progenitor of a lot of these African people, guys. This is one of their ancestors. The Yorubas have a lot of blood going back to this person and these people. So again, that's Yarub's other name, Yaman. That became Yemen, right? Al-Bayhaqi says Yarub was the first to speak in clear Arabic and left the confused way of talking used by the Arabs. He and his offspring were successful, and God bestowed on them the land of Yaman as heritage, right, or Yemen. To them belong the kings of Tuba, the Tuba people who conquered the regions of the earth. On the strength of this privilege, they are ranked before Adnan, while the Adnan can boast the prophethood of Muhammad. At the time in which the languages had already been confused. Wow, remember, this is from the Tower of Babel. What happened? God punished them because they were trying to build a big tower to reach heaven, and he destroyed it, and he confused all the languages except certain people like Eber's people. Remember, Eber did not participate in the building of the Tower of Babel. So his people, the ones that were with him, their tongues, because he separated himself. That also means to separate, to go beyond, right? Eber, where you get the word Hebrew. But either way, him and his people tongues did not get confused. So remember, Eber's son is Joktan. And if Jaman and Yarub that's Eber's grandson. So he was with him when they separated. So he must be able to obtain one of the more pure tongues, this Yaman. This makes sense to me, guys. This is what I'm trying to say. So at the time in which the languages had already been confused, the Banu Ham had come to the highlands of Yaman. So there was Hamitic people there. That's what I was saying. Joktan's people ended up there, but there was Hamitic people there before them, right? In Yemen. And like the Garamantes and all these people are part of that. They had left there before and went to Africa before these Himyarites, right? The Garamantes we read about earlier. You guys understand? So, and Yarub was the most high-minded youth in Babylon. So that is Babylon, huh? So that's what I'm saying. What's a Babylonian? That's just an empire. He was the most high-minded youth in Babylon. Remember Nimrod and all these people? Nimrod is the son of Cush. That's Hamitic, right? It's Babylon, right? Babylon's an empire. spoke clear Arabic. So he spoke clear Arabic while the others spoke in confused language. And Yarub recited the following verse. Wow. So I understand why they say pure Arabs and that he had the pure Arabic language because he was with Eber when they separated from the Tower of Babel. You understand? I am the youth, he says, favored by the richest gift, the happy one, well known for his virtue. I am the son of Khatan or Jaktan, the influential and rich. I spoke in Arabic while the people were in linguistic confusion. While people were being confused because of the Tower of Babel punishment, I spoke in the clearest and unambiguous language and in the perfect language of the kingdoms after me. Wow. All right, so again, Jarub, also spelled Yarub or Jarab, Jarab, like a people. Jarub is an ancient Arabic personal name. He is the grandson of Abir or Eber. Look, Abir, when you click on it, it brings you to Eber. You see? Eber. Joktan is Khatan. So Abir being the son of Khatan, Joktan, and the ancestor of the Himyarites. All right? Full circle. Remember what it was saying. It says, he is the forefather of Al-Arab, Al-Ariba, the Arabs or pure Arabs. Okay, going back to the translation. The Sanhaja trace their origins back to the Himyar. Now you understand what that Himyar means, right? So these Himyarites, who are part of the Sagawa people are part of, eventually mixed with Garamantes and other Semitic people from Soko, Babylon. And then you get the Mandingo. All right, so again, the Sanhaja trace their origins back to Himyar. They are only related to the Berbers through their women. They came from Yemen. All right, we just verified that. We just read that in Unknown Arabs in the other book, right? From Tariq Berry. They came from Yemen and went to the Sahara, right? And their present homeland in the Maghreb. The reason for their arrival to this country is as follows. There was a king, Toba. All right, Tuba. Remember, it says the progenitor of the Tuba, Toba, who had no equal among the princes of his country, and who surpassed all his predecessors, and his superiority, his royal power, and in the distant expeditions he led against his enemies, subduing both the Arab and foreign peoples, so that he caused the glory of all peoples who had preceded him to be forgotten. This prince had learned from the stories of certain rabbi the history of events and the existence of the books revealed by God to his prophet, peace be upon him. Books announcing that God would send a new messenger who would complete the series of prophets and who would go among all nations. The prince believed this story. He added faith to what was told to him and recited verses on this subject in which he said, I testify in favor of Ahmed that he is the messenger of God, the creator of mankind. In my life were added to his, I would become his vizier, his cousin. This verse is long and its story is well known. The prince went to Yemen and invited the inhabitants of his kingdom to adopt his beliefs, but no one agreed except a group of people from Himyar. After the death of this prince, the pagans prevailed over the believers. All those who had belief, like the Tober, were killed, all right? So again, we're translating this book right here in French, which is really an account. This is the Tariq al-Sudan. It provides the single most important primary source for the history of the Songhai Empire, okay? Just doing some corroboration with the book we've been reading. And I just wanted you guys to see this is real history. They are, this part of the branch of the Mandingo are from Yemen, just like the Garamantes most likely came from there as well. Before them, they might be more like we're learning today. Elam's people, Elamites, probably mixing with some of the Hamites that were there before Joktan, right? That we were just reading about. Okay, we're gonna go back to the other book, Unknown Arabs, okay, just to go ahead and continue. Ibn Hasim says that Ifriqish, listen to this is the name, Ifriqish, the son of Qais, the son of Saifi, left the Arabian Peninsula with Arab tribes and entered the area called Africa. So you guys see this, even this word Africa, whether it's the Roman version, Africa, or these Arab version from Ifriqish, they're Arab. They're not even African. According to him, the area called Ifriqiya, listen, all name of area from Northeast Africa to Northwest Africa was named after Ifriqish. Take a look at 3 on page 16 to see Ifriqish Abu Furakish descent. All right, so you can see his descent. We're gonna go definitely take a look at that, right? Don't worry about it. And then we got El Kalkashandi says, when Ifriqish completed his invasion of the Maghreb, invasion from Arabia, okay, the western part of Africa, so they invaded West Africa from Arabia, he left a garrison of Himyarite tribes of Samhaya and Ketama there, all right? So that's what happened. They followed him there, and these different nations became the Sanghaya. These two tribes are there until today. They are not of Berber origin. El Tabari, El Jirjani, El Masudi, Ibn Kalbi, El Suhaili, and all Arab genealogies agree on this point, okay? They're not Berbers. They came from somewhere else. Berbers were there a little longer, right? That's why they try to claim, oh, I'm Berber, man. No, the Berbers were a little longer. Yeah, but they're not Berbers. And all Arab genealogies agree on this point, right? So listen to what he's saying, right? A person from the Sanghaya Muletimen, right? This is a bad image, but you guys get what it's showing there, right? You know, doesn't the Moor show images like this? Don't even understand what a Moor is. Moor is very complex, as you guys can see. It's very complex, so-called Moor. So the Mandingos are descendants of the above-mentioned Sagawa, all right, who are Himyarite Arabs from the Yemen, right? The Sagawa. All right, so real quick, going back to the book by E.W. Boville, since we're talking about the Sagawa being related to the, or being ancestors of the Mandingo as well. It says here the Golden Trade of the Moors by E.W. Boville. We go to page 53. And says the Tuareg, like the Senata, to whom the introduction of the camel into North Africa is attributed. So remember, camels are not indigenous to Africa, guys. They're not indigenous to the Middle East either. They're not indigenous to Asia. They're indigenous to North America. We got a video on camels. Okay, that's why it was introduced. But the Tuareg, where's the Tuareg coming from? The Tuareg might be a Hamitic, Semitic people, right? Coming from the true old world, America. That's why they had the camel. So they're introducing the camel, right, into North Africa, or they get the attribute, just like the Sonata, certainly came from the east. So the Tuareg, they came from the east, from the eastern Mediterranean or southern Arabia. So this ain't a video about the Tuareg, but now we kind of know if we ever want to do a video about the Tuareg, they're also coming from Arabia, guys. We're going to get the whole details, right? The Tuareg coming, again, from southern Arabia. The grouping of the tribes is highly complex and need not trouble us here. The only tribes which will concern us are the Lemta, Samhaya, we were just talking about the Samhaya, right? The Jedala, the Godala, the Lemtuna, the Lemt, right? The Asgar, and Mesufa. So it says here, number 1, when you go to the footnote, it says historically the most important of the Tuareg tribes were the Sagawa, to whom reference is made in a later chapter at a date which was probably subsequent to the first Arab invasion of North Africa. They established themselves as a ruling aristocracy throughout the Sudan, into which they are credited with having introduced metalworking, huh? Is that copper? Copper from Michigan and Hausa and neighboring countries. There is a caste of metal workers and leather workers who are distinct from the rest of the population and are probably the Sagawa stock. Today, the Sagawa survive under that name only to the east of Lake Chad. This is where they are today, the Sagawa, right? Who, in ancient times, when they were in North Africa, they had mixed with Garamantes, right? Some of their people. And through that mixture came the Mandingo, right? But also the people who, you know, the Sagawa originally, who didn't mix or kept moving, they eventually, where? They ended up in Lake Chad right here, east of Lake Chad, you see? And that's where people think these people started off and now they're like Africans, right? And these people started off and now they're like Africans, right? So we got the Sagawa, right? As you guys can see, this is what they look like. Sagawa, reddish copper, And again, here's some of their people, right? You guys see? Now, because the Garamantes, as we were talking about the Garamantes earlier, they're very ancient, so they're not going to show us, they're going to whitewash images like this. Whitewash images, but they had a lot of pyramids and stuff, and cities and towns and empires. And again, we saw this image earlier. All right, that's the prisoner Garamanti. You guys see? These are black folks. These ain't white people, right? Looking like Roman or Greek art. Here we got a Pelasgian and a Garamanti. Pelasgian and Garamantes in a Greek vase. You see that? You see the complexion, right? Look at this, Garamantes right here. Garamantes, African history, right? Garamantes, you see? Looking like Roman mosaics. So they held it down for a while, right? In North Africa, but they were coming from somewhere else. So again, the Mandingos are descendants of the above-mentioned Sagawa, were Himyarite Arabs from the Yemen, right? Mixed with the Garamantes and possibly Elamites and Assyrians, Semitic people here and there. So says Bovell says the persistence with which the Mandingos held the stage in Western Africa is very striking. Their tenacious hold on Ghana, the expansion of Mali into a great empire which received recognition far beyond the shores of Africa, and the brilliant Soninke dynasty of the Askias placed the Mandingos above all other races of the Western Sudan, all right? So all that Mali empire and all that, you guys see, established by foreigners. And how great was Mali? Remember the Fulani brother was saying they kind of glorified the history a little more because they were the conquerors. They rewrote history. The qualities which enabled them to achieve so much, they owed to their nomadic Sagawa blood. The Mandingo was able to become a great Mali empire because of the Sagawa side, the Yemen side, the pure Arab side, not the Garamanti side, right? Not the Garamanti side. Says Dane Reynolds of Columbia University says some of these Sagawa in West Africa called Wangara, Wakad, or Wakori by Arab writers. Wangara, Gara, right? So they Sagawa, but they got it too. That's all names given to the Mandingo. Okay? All names given to the Mandingo. Adopted the dialects of the indigenous people of Mali called Mande Mandingo. These Wangara came to be called the Soninke or Sarakoli and include today Dijula and Dialonki and other peoples now speaking dialects called Mande. Soninke and Sarakoli people still consider themselves relatives of the Sarma Songhai. All right, you guys understand the whole makeup of the Mandingo, the whole history, the complex mixture, ethnology, their ancestry, how complex it is. In his book, Tariq el-Fatash, Mahmud Kati, the 16th century historian and companion of Askia, Muhammad, mentions the following tradition of the origin of the Mandingo, which was related to him by Askia Muhammad, the famous 16th king that so many so-called Black Americans take pride in. Askia Muhammad, why do they pride in it? The grandfather of Sugai Songhai, the grandfather of Wakari, a name for the Mandingo, and the grandfather of Wankara, a name for the Mandingo, were brothers. All right, they were brothers. That's where they get in these names, but they coming from the same makeup of Garamantes with Sagawa and their makeup, right? Their father was a king from the Yemen. Listen, their father was a king from the Yemen whose name was Taras, Baras, the son of Harun. This is where these people are coming from. This is their progenitor, and their progenitor's dad is from Yemen. When his father died, his brother Jazraf, the son of Harun, became the king. And this Jazraf treated his nephews harshly. So they migrated from the Yemen to the Atlantic coast. So that's their story, I guess. The oldest of them was named Wakari, the son of Baras. And his wife name was Amina, the daughter of Bakht. Wakari was the grandfather of the tribe called Wakari. All right. The second of them was called Sungai, the son of Baras, and his wife was named Sarah, the daughter of Wahab. He was the grandfather of the tribe called Sugu, Songhai, all right? The third of them was called Wankara, and he was the youngest. He was the grandfather of the tribe called Wankara. So they took on these people's name, guys, right? This tradition is consistent with the Songhai's tradition of their origin, okay? The people themselves will tell you that's their tradition, that's their origin. No matter what a Pan-African says, this is what they say. They history. Their tradition says, as for the first king Sai el-Iman, the founding father of the Songhai tribe, the origin of the expression Sai el-Iman is he came from the Yemen. That's literally what their progenitor's name means, the first king. Literally. You guys hear that, right? But a lot of Pan-Africans won't even know this, right? So this guy, famous African, right? Founder of the Songhai, right? Or the Wankara founder, their first king, right? Called Sai el-Ayman, which means he came from the Yemen, okay? He came from the Yemen. They came from Yemen, man. It is said that he and his brother left the Yemen and traveled about Allah's earth until destiny brought them Allah's earth, huh? Until destiny brought them where? Into to the ancient land of Songhai, into Africa. This happened during the time of the pharaohs. During the time of the pharaohs, huh? Songhai. So again, we're talking about the Songhai Empire. You know, get a reference. I know a lot of you probably never heard of these people, these empires. Don't know nothing about the history of Africa, but I do also know a lot of you do. All right, so this is for those who don't. All right, and if you do, now you're getting the full story, all the details, not just the bias out of Africa one. Okay, so this is the Songhai Empire, right, guys? See where it's located in Africa. Again, coming from Yemen, the two brothers, right? Almost like the story of the Choctaw and Chickasaw, the two brothers coming out of Mexico. Wonder if it's related somehow. two brothers, huh? It's always some two brothers, right? All right, and just to corroborate, we're here at the Royal African Society, Oxford Academic website. It says here, the journal article from African Affairs, volume 29, issue, you see the number from 1929, right? It's called The Silent Trade of Wangara by E.W. Vogel, okay? So around 35 of this article, it says here, Wangara, right? Remember, these are all related to the Garamantes and these other tribes here in the Sahara. It says, it's still a common name in the Western Sudan. Gara, according to Mr. Palmer, was a name for the ancient pre-Tuareg Saharan tribes, before the Tuareg, more often called Sioux, who fused with the Negroes. What Negroes? Remember, and these are Hamites, right? The Garamantes, and became known in the West as Wakori, Wangara, and Sarakori, Sarakoli, and in the East as Kardawan and Garawan, Garamantes. All right, today, the name Wangara is applied in various forms to the Mandingos or Malinke by their neighbors, okay? It was in this sense that it was used by the Arab writers of the Middle Ages. It is now more especially applied to the Muslim Soninke and Duala branches of the Mandingo race. The Diula are widely scattered through the Western Sudan as itinerant traders, and it is due to their wide diffusion that the name Wangara is so generally found. The Mandingos are called Wangarbi by the Fulani, Wankori by the Songhai. The Hausas call them Wangarawa. Leo's curious blunder in placing Wangara in the Hausa country was probably due to his hearing while in Samfara of a neighboring Wangara settlement, which deceived him into assuming it to be the Wangara of the Arab writers. As recently as Barb's time, the trade of Katsina was mostly in the hands of Wangarawa, right? And one of the wards of the city still bears their name. Today, natives claiming Wangara descent are not uncommon in northern Nigeria, where is, however, nothing to distinguish them from the rest of the population, by whom they have been almost completely absorbed, all right? Garamantes, the Wangara. But let's continue. Askia Mohammed, the famous 16th century Songhai dynasty king that many so-called African Americans take pride in. Again, supposedly, I don't know. Do any of you guys know these people? Be real about it, man. He's talking for you. He said you guys are very proud of him or take pride in these people. He's talking for you guys, right? This author. This is what I'm saying. He's a little biased with the whole trying to match these people with so-called Black Americans. That part right there, he can't prove like how he proves this part. He don't got all these resources and sources and primary sources. I already verified. He does have some stories of certain people getting enslaved and being brought, but then you got to have the whole context of who that person is, why he got enslaved, where, who brought him over there, was really a slave ship or he was just a passenger who got an indenture. You get what I'm saying? All right. So show all the sources, the whole context, and you got millions and millions to account for either way, because supposedly it was millions and millions of Africans, right, brought to the Americas, and you can't prove that. So either way, let's continue. So this guy, Askia Mohammed, a 16th century Songhai dynasty king, was from the Turud branch of Mandingo, the Turud. On his return trip from his famous pilgrimage to Mecca, he spoke to Jalal el-Din el-Suyuti, the famous Egyptian scholar and historian, who told him, "Your tribe is related to the Turud, who are from the people of the Yemen." All right. Also, Ahmed Mansour el-Dahabi, the Moroccan sultan of the 16th century, said to Askia Muhammad's descendant, Askia Ishak, "You have related that your forefather, the son of Ibn di Jassan, Saif ibn di Jassan, was the first to believe in my forefather Mustafa, the Prophet Muhammad." This Saif ibn di Jassan is the famous Himyarite king of the 6th century, okay, from Yemen, from Yarub, from Joktan, from Katan, from Yoktan, descendant of Yoktan, who became the pure Arabs, right? That means they're still Semitic people. Himyarite kings, the pure Arabs of the 6th century, that's who he is, that's who they descend from, that's their first king. As you can see, Ahmed Mansour el-Dahabi was well aware of the fact that the Mandingos were Yemenite Arabs. Okay, the Mandingos were Yemenite Arabs who had mixed with Garamantes. All right, you guys, in general, that's the major makeup, right? These Yemenite Arabs with these Garamantes and Semitic peoples, a little bit of Semitic. Well, these Yemenite Semitic, but others like Caesarians, Elamites, Persians, these all Semitic. In general, Garamantes with Yemenite Arabs. That's your Mandingo, guys. All right? And that is the truth. And that's what we're going to continue to prove. And as this comes out, more and more people are going to realize and go even further with the proof, go even further with the research, and corroborate this. So as you can see, people, the Mandingo tribe formed as a result of the Arab tribe of Garamantes, right? Gara, they say in Arab, but they might be Cushites too, a little bit Hamitic, who were Elamites. So Arab Hamites who are Elamites. And remember, he's calling Elamites Cushites, so that's why there's a little mix-up here. So Elam is Shem. I don't doubt that the Gara, though, are Elamites of Shem with the Cushite blood that he was saying. There's a whole mixture within the Garamantes that I went into, who are actually given a progenitor by the name of Ahmadin, I believe, and that was a son of Mizraim or Cush. So these Garamantes, right? So as you can see, the Mandingo tribe formed as a result of the Arab tribe of Garamantes, who were Elamites, mixing with the Yuhaina branch of Himyarite Arabs called the Sagawa. Right? These are your Mandingo people, guys. You understand. This is why you will find some Mandingo traditions that say that the Mandingos are from the Elamites or Mesopotamians, from the Gara origin, because they're talking about their Gara part, their Gara ancestry. And you will find others that say that they are from the Yemen, from the Sagawa origin. So they don't know that some might have more Yemen blood than the Gada blood. Some might have more Gada blood than the Yemen blood, and that's why they like that. Just like in the Americas, right? Some people might be more Black European than American Indian. Some people might be more American Indian than Black European. So some people might say, "Nah, I'm Black European. We Black Europeans," and some might say, "No, we American Indians," because that's all they know. That's all they know. The same here. Some only know about the Gada. Some only know about the Sagawa part. They don't know the whole makeup. This is why you find some with different stories, right? Turn to So before we continue, just wanted to come to this website. It has some pretty good info here. It's called Afroasiatics.blogspot.com. Says here Afroasiatica and Odyssey in Black. All right. Says from Proto-Berbers to Moors, recalling the Chadic and Nilo-Saharan origins of medieval civilization of North Africa. All right. So why am I reading this? Because it has a little drop on the Garamantes. Just want to read here to corroborate. That's the hijack with the whole. This he is a little Moorish science biased, but he has some good drop. We're gonna go ahead and see. So right here it says North Africa has been essentially Arabized and Berberized to the point that almost everybody speaks either Berber or Arab dialects. However, as archaeology and genetics is now testifying, the modern North African people are culturally and biologically derived from the confluence and amalgamation of many biological groups over centuries. This is also clearly illustrated by current phenotypes, which are probably about as diverse as all the varied people known to have arrived in North Africa over the past 3,000 years. Arrived, not left, arrived, right? This post streets of the people the Romans and later peoples consistently referred to as black in North Africa, mainly the Proto-Berbers, Gaetulis, and the Maori. So remember the Gaetulis are the same as the Garamantes, they're related, who were the people that had occupied the Sahara for centuries before the arrival of the Greeks, Romans, and Vandals, and Scythians, and later colonists that came with the Muslim invasion of North Africa. In Libya and Fezzan, these people had names like Garamantes. All right, this is who he's calling Mori. He's trying to make them Moors, right? Galita, Mori, the Garamantes. So you saw the other scholars, they didn't say nothing about Moris or Moors, right? When they were talking about Garamantes, right? But let's just go with it. So he's talking about the Garamantes, the Gamfasantes, the Tidamansi, the Gilagamae. Roman geographer Pomponius Mela refers to the Garamantes as Gamfasantes, while Pliny refers to Garamantia as Fasania, with its capital of Garama. Much later, the Syrian Abdul Feda of the 14th century refers to Garama and its population as Garan or Karan, a name Arab speakers still use for the modern Daza. Daza are Tabu-speaking people now living mainly in Chad and Niger. All right? They are from the Garamantes too. You guys see that? The Garan or Karan, which is the same as the Daza. And they are now in Chad and Niger, right? They come from the Garamantes too, guys. Just like the Mandingo. It says here, a modern Sagawa man called Sugawa in Sudan and North Africa. So we talked about the Sagawa, right? A part of the Tuareg who mixed with the Garamantes. It says Teda, Sagawa, and Daza groups each speak Nilo-Saharan dialects but claim and appear to have had separate origins. Do you see? This is what the author in the last book we're reading, we're talking about how people say, no, we're more Sagawa. No, we're Garamantes. Because they don't understand the whole makeup. Even this article right here we're reading don't understand the whole makeup. But as you guys can see, correlating what we're saying, they are all related because the Garamantes and the Sagawa did mix. All right. So here's some women of the Teru Tubu. So I thought this was an interesting video that this website had, showing some of the descendants of Garamantes and Sagawa people, right? And they're still living today. These are modern day Tobu people, I believe, and living in the Sahara. And this is a little documentary I was watching. It's translated, dubbed. I'm sorry, it's subtitled in English. So it was pretty interesting, their whole journey. What they look like, everything about them. As you guys can see, right? There is a Kushite or Hamitic bloodline there. And then you got the Sagawa, Tuareg, with the Arabian. All these people coming from Arabia. all right? Your pure Arabs with your Garamantes. He's calling Elamites, right? Persians, that's what he's calling them, right? He's saying the Sagawa and Garamantes, right? Here he's showing a modern Haratim family, all right? You guys see? It says the Garamantes were cattle herdsmen or pastoralists, but skilled in hydraulics and agricultural metallurgy, glassmaking and mining, and used high quality textiles. They were also developed expertise in salt refining. So they were very famous for the salt. They were trading in salt. Their advanced irrigation and hydraulics technology allowed them to create a green oasis in the midst of the Sahara. They had many walled towns and built pyramids and pyramid funerary monuments with Meroitic Nubian affinities. Their advanced irrigation and hydraulic technology allowed them to create a green oasis in the midst of the Sahara. According to Charles Daniels in his groundbreaking The Garamantes of the Libyan Sahara from 1970, the type of cyst burials they used, which are the most ancient cairn type found throughout the northern Sahara, were associated with hollowed stone bowls, reminiscent of those found in the southeastern Sahara. Here he's showing the Tobu of Africa dwelling in Chad, Fezzan, Sudan, Libya, and Niger, right? Again, all these people related to the Mandingo. They have the same origin coming from Arabia, from Asia. It says here there are three types of Ethiopian: Hesperians, Garamantes, and Indians. You guys see that? Ethiopian Indians? What Indians? Isidore of Seville, Spain, 6th century. Remember, India wasn't called India, so who's he talking about in the 6th century? Isidore of Seville. Huh? The Ethiopians. The name of the Garamantes came from the Ahel Gara, who had a town called Garama, and Jerma, you see? Germa, Garama, Germa. In ancient Greek myth, Garamas was a brother of Ogygia, or Gyges, a king in the Aegean and the grandson of Minos, the ruler who founded Crete, expelling the Carians. What did they do? The Garamelians, the Garamas expelled the Carians, the Caribs, a Pelasgian people from the area. Peleg, you mean? Pelasgian? Carian people, huh? Caribs, huh? They kicked them out, huh? The Caribs, the Garamas, huh? The mother of Garamas, also called Amphithemis, was Tritonis, a water nymph. Interestingly, the myth of descent from a water nymph seems to be retained among the people like Fulani or Wudabi Futa B, also once numerous in the Neolithic Sahara and oasis next to Egypt. Garamantian peoples once had a major civilization in the Libyan Fezzan and Sahara, comprised of several towns. The civilization peaked between 2nd BC and the 6th century AD, from where the name of the Garama is derived. It is not certain, but the direct roots of Garamantian culture date back to at least 9th century BC, and early Garamantians are described by Herodotus in the 6th century BC as a great nation, although having no weapons of war. Here he has a modern Berber girl of the Wedra, he's saying. All right, so we're going to read a little bit about the Gaitulis. Remember, these are the same people as the Garamantes. They're just different nations, but they came from the same origin. Remember, these what they call them Berber people, right? So from the Gaitulis arose a considerable portion of the clans that appeared to have included the Sanata Berbers, from according to Ibn Khaldun, were the most considerable of the Berbers of North Africa. The Sanata, or Senetis, remember, related to the Sagawa, included the Magerawa, anciently called the Machurebi in Algeria, the Makoraba and Makorinis in Nubia, who were on the northern side of the Daradus, on the modern Wadi Dara. In the middle of the 11th century, the Magrawa still controlled the most of the Sos and Dra, Sijil Masa, and Akmat, as well as Fez. Idrisi refers to them as Magriwat as Sudani. They are the ancestors of the Imakarim or Imakaran Tuareg, who also founded Timbuk or Timbuktu. All right, Timbuktu, right? Again, all these people coming from Arabia. The name of the Guaitulis is also thought to have evolved into the Jodala branch of the Sanghaya. There we go, learning about the Sanghaya again, who were known in part, were represented by the Fulata or Fulani known as Bantu Warif or Barsu, as Banu Warif or Barsu Fulitani of Mauritania, Caesarea. Another branch of the Sanata were the Jarawa or Jawara, whose descendants are thought to be the Guara or Guara of Wargla, Tugar, and the same as Garawan or Goran populations of Fezzan and Chad. These people are descendants of the Garamantian traders early on, whose centers were the northern oasis stretching between Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. As they moved southward into Sudan, they became known in manuscripts of Wangara or Wakori as Bobo states, silent trade of Wangara. These traders were known in the western Sahel and Sudan as Wangara and Sarakoli, remember these are all Mandingos, and in the east of the Kardawan and Garawan, Garamantes. Boval, okay? The town of Germa, right, is Germa or Germany, Garama, is later in fact called Karan or Garan after the Gorani or Garawan population still extant there. All right, so I just wanted to get a breakdown of some of those clans so you guys can learn all those people related coming, from, again, Arabia. Robert Brown in his notes explaining Leo Africanus' writings on Guargela also claimed of Wargla and taught that the black races originally occupied those Saharan oases were driven south only with the coming of the Libyan Tuareg. The descendants of these Saharan commerciants, right, and traders, Wangara or Songhai, were said to have founded and ruled Ghana and Songhai and Dar Tishit, okay, Mandingo people. All right, it literally just told us right here. Robert Brown is letting us know, right, in 1896 that they are the Mandingos, the Garaman and the Tuareg and all these people eventually were driven south and they became Mandingo people, right? All right, so we talked about some of the branches of the Mandingo. We got another branch here. We're back in the book, The Unknown Arab by Tariq Berry. And it says here the Kita branch of the Mandingo tribe, however, has a completely different origin. So remember, this is why there's different branches, because these are people originally, all coming from the same source, but then they start mixing with other people and they become their own branches, right? So the Kita branch, they're saying they have a different origin. The Kita branch of the Mandingo tribe are Alawites. That is to say, they are descendants of Ali, the son of Abu Talib. El Ghanimi says the Kita clan, which founded the Mali kingdom, all right, might be a whole future video on the Mali kingdom here, but you guys can see the origin, right? The Kita, which are Mandingo, so they have all this background that we've been talking about, but they're just a specific people because they descend from this guy Ali, the son of Abu Talib. So El Ghanimi says the Kita clan, which founded the Mali kingdom, is descended from the Alawites or Alawites. That is to say, they are descended from Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib, the fourth rightly guided caliph. When speaking of the 14th century, Mandingo king Mansa Musa, right? Mandingo king, so Mansa Musa, right? Who was from the Kita branch of the Mandingo. So he's part of this Kita branch. All right, we're going to start getting to know this history in detail, right? So he's from the Kita branch of the Mandingo, and whom the so-called African Americans take pride in. Again, Ibrahim Tarkam quotes the Arab historian El Omari as saying, and this king of Takrur claims descent from Abdullah, the son of Salih, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abi Talib. Ibn Battuta, the Arab historian of the 14th century, says in the city of Ghana is the residence of the king of the districts of Ghana, Mansa Musa, who lays claim to being a descendant of Hassan, the son of Ali. When speaking of this same king, Mansa Musa, right, Ibn Khaldun of the 14th century says that it is said that the children of Hassan had a country and a large kingdom, Mali, the land of Takrur. He also says it is said that there was a country and a king in Ghana of people from the Alawites, known as the children of Salih. The author of the book Rojar says that this Salih is Salih, the son of Abdullah, the son of Hassan, the son of Hassan. Ibn Khaldun further says, some historians say that he is Salih, the son of Abdullah, the son of Musa, the son of Abdullah, nicknamed Abba el-Karam, the son of Musa, the Black, and that during the days of El Mamun, he left for Khurasan and eventually caught up with his children in the Maghreb, the West. The West, huh? Khorasan sounds like Curaçao. Khorasan in the West, huh? Are we really talking about African places? Who had a kingdom in the land of Ghana. So Ibn Khaldun also says that this Salif could possibly be Salif, the son of Joseph, the son of Muhammad el-Akhader, the son of Joseph, the son of Ibrahim, the son of Musa, the Black, the son of Abdullah, the son of Hassan, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abi Talib, all right, the whole genealogy. It is said that this Muhammad el-Akhader sent his grandson Salih to the Sudan to start a kingdom. Dr. Muhammad el-Garbi says in his book Bad al-Hukm el-Maghribi fi Sudan el-Garbi, there came to Ghana from the east people descended from the Prophet Muhammad, right? From the east, all right? The Middle East, Asia, belonging to the same family as the Idrisis, who had ruled Morocco since the year 788 and had formed two other countries, one in Andalusia, the children of Hamud, all right, in Spain, Andalusia, and the other in El Yamama, the children of El Akhader. Jamama. These Shurafa people descended from the Prophet. They not only think of spreading Islamic teaching, but they also worked at forming a kingdom in the Sudan. Dr. El Garbi further says, it appears that this Salif, who came from Mecca, from the same welcome in Ghana that Idris found in Morocco, and he took advantage of this welcome by forming a kingdom in the Sudan. In his book, The Description of Maghrib, Sudan, Egypt, and Andalusia, El Idrisi, 12th century, describes Mali as follows. Its people are Muslims, and his king is described as being a descendant of Salih, the son of Abdullah, the son of Hassan, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abu Talib. All right, we get it. In his book, Sub el-Asha el-Kalkaskashandi, 14th century, says, it is said in El Ta'arif that this king of Takrur claims descent from Abdullah, the son of Salih, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abu Talib. I say that he is Salih, the son of Abdullah, the son of Musa, the son of Abdullah, Abi el-Karam, the son of Musa, the Black, the son of Abdullah, the son of Hassan, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abu Talib. All right. So they're all saying kind of the same thing. The order's a little messed up here and there, but pretty much the same. This Abdullah, the son of Salih, mentioned in El Ta'arif could be the son of Salih, the son of Abdullah, the son of Musa, the Black son of Abdullah, the son of Hassan, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abdul Talib, mentioned by El Azbahani in the Book of Songs. So why don't he just say that all these people mentioned the same thing instead of repeating it, right? El Ashabani says in the Book of Songs that this Salih was called the father of Abdullah. So apparently he had a son named Abdullah. Those who said Salih, the son of Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abu Talib, inadvertently skipped Abdullah, Musa the Black, Abdullah, and the second El Hassan. All right, so people skipping others, right? Ibn Battuta, Ibn Khaldun, El Kalkashandi, and El Omari were all scholars, historians, okay? These are people, real scholars, people that knew these people from these people, right? That lived during the same time that Mansa Musa lived. These are primary sources he's basically letting you know, guys. It is clear that the knowledge they had was that Mansa Musa was descended from Ali ibn Abu Talib. Mansa Musa was a very pious man who took his religion seriously. He is well known for his famous pilgrimage that he performed. During this pilgrimage, he gave away so much gold in charity that the Prince of Egypt, right? Gold in Egypt decreased tremendously. Sorry, the price, I'm saying the prince, sorry, that the price of gold in Egypt decreased tremendously. Why should we call him a liar when he says that his tribe was descended from Ali? Who should we believe instead of him? So we can see that one of the three possible genealogical chains was meant when it was said that these Mandingos were descended from Hassan, the son of Ali, the son of Abu Talib. All right, and again, these Abu Talib, again, these are from the Arab migrations coming in, guys. They're not from Africa. So as you guys can see, pretty much the makeup of the Mandingos, right? That's what he's got to say about them. All right, so we're going to end it right here in this book, but we're going to go ahead and get the genealogical tree he was referencing, and we saw in the last video when we were talking about the Yoruba, right? Continuing, it says, remember that Ibn Khaldun said that it is said that the Kita clan of Mandingo are descended from the Salif, the son of Abdullah, the son of the Hassan, of the son of Hassan, Musa the Black, and so on, right? Excluded from the line, they excluded Abdullah, he's saying. Looking at the second genealogical tree on page 115, one can see whence the confusion arises. There are three Abdallahs. One is Abdullah, the son of Salih. Another is Abdullah, the father of Salih. So because there's people with the same names, that's why there's confusion going around. He's saying, whoever transmitted this information to Ibn Khaldun appears to have inadvertently skipped Musa the Black and his son Abdullah, the second Abdullah. Such minor mix-ups in genealogical trees are not uncommon amongst the Arabs. Anyway, that you look at it, the Kita branch of Mandingo are descended from Ali, the son of Abu Talib, through his descendants El Hassan, Abdullah, and Musa the Black. As you can see from the three trees, the Keita clan of Mandingo are related to the Idrisis of North Africa and the Alawites of Morocco. The Idrisis are descended from Idris, all right? Idris, what are we talking about? Taf? Come on, man. Idris? Are you serious? Who is the brother of Musa the Black, the Keita's ancestor, all right? The brother of Musa, huh? The Alawites are descended from Muhammad, the brother of Musa, the Black, and Idris. By examining all this in detail, one can see how closely related the Kita clan of Mandingo are to the other Shurafa, the Alawites and Idrisis of Africa, north and south of the Sahara and other parts of the world. Those who have doubts about the Kita being descended from Ali, the son of Abu Talib, because of the Kita's dark complexion, should bear in mind the fact that this Musa the Black in the genealogical tree of the Kita, the great-grandson of Ali, the son of Abu Talib, was described by El Subair ibn Bukar as being black-skinned. All right, so nobody's really, we know people were melanated, you know. This is how he got his nickname, the Black. His brother Muhammad and even Ali himself were also described as black-skinned, all right? All these people are dark-skinned, so I don't know what they're talking about, right? Other clans of Mandingo include the Fina, all right, who are descended from Abu Ayyub el-Ansari. That's their makeup. The Sako, who are descended from Abu Bakr el-Siddiq, all right? The Suware, these are all different clans of the Mandingo, right? Who are descended from Abel el-Mutalib. The Kamara, who are descended from Sa'id ibn Abu Waqas. The Jakanki, who are descended from Umar ibn el-Khattab. The Saganogo, who are descended from Uthman ibn Affan. And the Kaaba, who are also from Quraysh. Philip Curtin mentions an example of Mandingo from the Kaaba family being captured in Futa Jalon, Guinea, sold as a slave, and shipped across the Atlantic. His name was Muhammad Kaaba, alias Robert Pert and Robert Tuvit. Across the so see, this is what I'm saying. He's got some examples of some people going into the Americas. So maybe he was, you know, they want to think like Kunta Kinte style, and that this happened to millions of people, but that's the hijack. So just because we can trace one or two people going over there, and who knows in what status, indentured servant or as whatever status, you know, going over there, we need to know the details. And it doesn't prove a whole millions of people being set over there, okay? Because we got the slave ships and we know the sources. Check out my playlist, The Real Slave Trade. All right. So that's the end of this particular segment on the Mandingo in this book. We're going to end it right there. But as you guys saw, all these clans going back to one progenitor, that one progenitor, again, being from the same people, all right, coming from these same areas, the Garamantes, the Sagawa, the Tuareg people, these Hamitic, Arabian, Himyarite, Yemen tribes, okay? That is their makeup, guys. The Mandingo of Africa. The Mandingo people, right? Mandingo people. The Mandinka. The Mandingo people. The Mandingo tribe. Now you guys know, all right? The whole makeup, a little more details. And from here, we're just going to keep researching on and on more and more in detail, guys. All right. That was your real history of Mandingo tribe. Now you know the makeup of the Mandingo people, the history of the Mandinka people, a real history. All right, you guys see once again the tree. Now you understand, right? We got the Gara or the Garamites mixing with the Himyarites, Zhagawa, the Sagawa Tuareg people, and the Gara Elamite Semitic people, Berber, Hamitic, Berber mixing these. It's not just Elamites; these are Hamitic people too. All right, the Gara mixing with the Himyarites or the pure Arabs coming from Yoktan, and more complex. It breaks down a little more complex than this, guys. But you guys kind of saw the reading, kind of get an idea, and then you get the Mandingo. The Mandingo, huh? Now look what's under Mandingo. These are future video, right? Look what's under the Mandingo. The Akan, Asante people. So they come from the Mandingo. So all this info we just read, their Mandingo side, right? The Akan's Mandingo side or Mandingo relation to the East Ancient people, the Gara and the Himyarites and the Elamites and all these people, right? Mixed with, look what it says here, Canaanites, Phoenicians, so-called Phoenicians. That's Assyrians in this book. They call them Assyrians, Phoenicians, and Carthaginians, huh? Carthaginians, Semitic, more Semitic people. Then you get the Akan, the Asante, mixed with the Mandingo, Gara, Himyarites, huh? That's how you get the Akan. Well, we're going to verify that, okay? We're going to verify that. Now remember, we got Abid or Eber in the Arabic world, and his son Joktan or Katan, who was the father of Yarub or Yarab, the progenitor of Yoruba, you see, of Nigeria. Check out the video we just did recently, and progenitor of the Sabia or Sabians. A lot of these people are being called Hamitic, but you guys see, it is Hamitic, but it's also because they mixed with Joktan's people, the pure Arabs. And then you get all these clans in Africa. The Mandingo. All right. Now you guys know. Do you guys see? I hope you appreciate the details of these people, the nations of the world. We're just digging through all of them. And we just happen to be talking about these African nations. We're not trying to disprove anything. We're trying to prove something. All right. And show a bigger picture. You guys see us starting to add up, right? You guys see a lot of these nations, again, are coming in from other parts of the world into Africa, not out of Africa, but into Africa. The Mandingo, right? Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow.